In today's lesson, we're going to be taking a look at Roman philosophy, law and justice, and then we're going to take a look at Roman citizenship. So let's begin with our topics. We have to always continually go back to our essential question, which talks about how has Rome influenced or impacted modern society. So when we're looking at the ancient Romans and their impact today, we're going to say, or we're going to take a look at, how have some of their philosophies, how are those seen in modern society? Law and justice, do we still use some of the same laws or the same justice system that they used back then? And citizenship, what did it mean to be a Roman citizen? And is that similar to what it means today for us to be American citizens? As we look at Roman philosophy, one of the things that really stands out is this idea of Stoicism. Stoicism, it's this belief that there's a divine or godly intelligence that rules over all of nature. Now, when I write godly, you'll notice it's a lowercase g. It's not in reference to God Almighty in heaven. It's lowercase g, many gods, but this is just, they look at it as there is a divine being, but it's not necessarily God from the Christian faith. It is just a godly being or godly intelligence that rules over all nature. Now, the Romans believed that the human soul is a spark of this divine being. One of the things that was extremely important to being a Stoic was this idea of living rightly. The ancient Roman Stoics felt that meant that they were living in accord or living in a sort of right way with all of nature. Stoics believed in living rightly. This meant that they were living in a way that agreed with all of nature. One of the most important things in a Stoic's life was character. Virtues such as self-control were prized. And they also held this idea that duty to your community or the welfare of the community was something to be valued over your personal comfort. So if your community needed you, even if you didn't feel like doing it, even if you didn't want to do it, a Stoic would say it is your duty to do it, to help out your community. Doesn't matter if it makes you comfortable or not. You need to be an active member within your community. If your community needs you to serve in some way, it is your responsibility, your obligation to put the community before yourself. Now, as we look at law and justice, we're going to see that it's going to cover many aspects of everyday life. It's going to cover everything from marriage to what you can inherit when someone dies to contracts, so legal agreements between two parties, two different people. So many modern-day legal codes in places such as France are based on these ancient laws and forms of justice that were found in ancient Rome. Now, when we look at the court system, there are two different groups that are going to get treated very differently. We have the poor and the slaves. The poor and the slaves are going to be treated very differently from that of the wealthy. One of the interesting things to note is that the emperor, because he was in charge of Rome, he actually created different laws that would benefit him or exempt him from being held accountable to the existing laws. The Romans believed in something that they called natural rights or natural law. These are rights that no written law could ever take away. These are things that you're actually born with. And even in our American Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men are born with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And Jefferson believed that it didn't matter who you were, what social class you were in, what color your skin was. He believed that everybody had the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we actually have laws that say that you can't murder somebody. Everybody has the right to their own life. You can't take that life from them. It is guaranteed to them naturally. And freedom is one of those things that, even though Thomas Jefferson owned slaves, he believed that freedom was a natural right, and that he was violating the rights of those people that he owned. So slavery is something that is currently today illegal, and everyone has the right or the freedom to pursue those things that make them happy. So we can find these natural rights listed, again, in the Declaration of Independence. As I stated, these things are given to you naturally. They are God-given, and they're things that no written law can ever take away. The last area that we're going to look at is citizenship. Now, to be Roman, that meant that you were a citizen of the city-state of Rome. To be Roman meant that you were a citizen of the city-state of Rome. Now, emperors, because they wanted to expand their power, they wanted to expand their empire, wherever the Roman Empire or the Roman army conquered became part of the Roman Empire. So the emperors gradually started to include these other territories, the people who occupied these other territories, as being Roman, because then the number of citizens who were paying money to Rome grew. So emperors gradually are going to extend citizenship to all free people within the empire. Because citizenship had been granted to all of these individuals throughout the Roman Empire, you could be in Southeast Asia and be Roman, you could be somewhere in Europe and still be considered Roman. So everyone in those different regions or different territories of the Roman Empire, they received the exact same privileges as someone who was a Roman from the city-state of Rome. Now, one thing that they had to do, though, was they had to pledge allegiance to the emperor. Now, we see something very similar to this in modern America. Anybody can come to our country as an immigrant. We have immigration. People will say, I want to move to your country. I want to live in your country. I want to be a citizen. And we're fine with that as long as you take a citizenship test and you pledge allegiance to America and you declare yourself as an American. So even if you're from another country and you've become an American citizen, the one thing that you are held accountable to are American laws. So it is really important for people who immigrate to America to understand the laws of our country and to realize that they are going to be held accountable for those specific laws.